want everybody to dance them just like I tell you. And when I say hold yourself, I want all of you get ready to stop. When I say stop, don't move. And when I say get it, I want all of y'all to go boogie woogie. Hold it now. Boogie woogie. Stop. Boogie woogie. Now when I say hold your steps this time, I want all of you to get ready to stop. When I say stop, don't move a peg. When I say get it, everybody mess around. Hold yourself now. Mess around.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Discover RPG. Finally, I'm so sorry. I don't know why I'm apologizing on behalf of Discord. It needs to get its shit together. And on that note, hi, we're here chatting about Curse of Strahd. Oh, there we go. Creepy music. Sorry, I guess I had to say the name. I had to conjure. It's like Macbeth. You have to conjure the name and then creepy stuff happens. So we are here, me, Allorah, and Franz in the middle. Hee. We are here with two of our friends who also are DMs in Curse of Strahd games. We have Naomi and Lane. Hello, friends. Welcome.
Hello.
We're so happy you took some time out. This is a topic that Franz really wanted to get in on. We want to do this a little bit more, as we originally were a show about talking about DMing. So kind of treating it kind of like a panel. We did call it a round table. The idea is we wanted to see how people's experiences with the module or with a particular adventure that we all shared, how they differ, how you run it differently, how you have experienced it as a player, all kinds of stuff. Now, for everybody out there who is watching, who maybe has played Curse of Strahd or has not played Curse of Strahd, this is going to be a discussion about the whole thing in its totality. So there's going to be spoilers. In the event that we start talking about something in heavy detail and you don't want to be spoiled, the people on the screen right now are going to tell me that this is going to be a big spoiler conversation, and I am going to press a magic button, and something's going to come up on screen, and you will know very obviously visually that we are going to be talking about heavy spoilers. And what you should do is mute your video if you don't want to hear the spoiler. When we stop talking about the spoiler, I will turn it off, and then you'll know you can safely unmute it. it's up to you what you want to do. It's fine. But the idea was I wanted to at least do a little bit of our due diligence that if we talk about something that is ultra spoilery, just know that we're doing that. The whole thing is going to be talking about the nitty gritty of the story. So we'll get into a lot of it, but I just figured we'd have it in case. Or in case, for example, somebody's maybe... I assume that the DMs are not going to want to spoil their own games. So you don't have to do that. You can kick out your players or threaten them if they don't get off the stream for 5 minutes.
I'm keeping an eye on my one that says that she's about somewhere.
What I should have done, now that I think about it, is I should have made an earmuffs GIF.
Oh my god.
Like, you need to mute yourself, but...
You should have put them on the little guy. It would have been cute.
I know. Oh, there you go.
Next time.
Just have him close his eyes and covering his ears. That would be very good. Okay, so let's get started. As I said, we're talking about Curse of Strahd. It is a module that is infamous and famous. For lots of reasons, but we're going to kind of do a very quick... we're going to start with a very quick primer so that we all are on the same page. And this is very self-indulgent of me because I have not played anything from Curse of Strahd before. I have only absorbed things via osmosis. But Curse of Strahd's been out since 2016. It came originally Ravenloft was a module, or Ravenloft was a setting that was published in the 80s. But the newer version, or the 5e edition, or the 5e edition is very redundant. Anyway, it came out in 2016. Does anybody know, did it have any re-release, or was it just...
Yes. Sort of, yeah. It was part of Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, but it wasn't necessarily like a re-release of the whole module. It rewrites a bunch of stuff in it, but the book covers more than just Ravenloft. It covers the other domains of Dread as well.
Gotcha.
There's also
Okay,
the
so that's...
revamped edition.
Revamped edition was what I just saw, and it was very, very fun. So Naomi, your auntie Barbara is saying, sorry.
That's such a good name.
It's a really good name.
Thank you. No, I know who that is.
So Lane, you inadvertently had a really good starting point for us. So let's do a really quick primer on what Ravenloft as a setting is, and so that everybody's on the same page about what this module is. So we'll start with that. But what I want to do is try to... I have notes. Allorah and Franz and I made notes. But because we have guests who have been playing in this for a while, what I want to do... It's on the thing, so nobody be surprised that I'm doing this, because it's on the notes. I wanted to know how Naomi and Lane would go about explaining the setting to somebody. And this is just... example number 1 about how this experience can be different between DMs.
I tone it down, honestly. I tend to run Curse of Strahd as a introduction to players that have never played D&D before.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So trying to introduce, like first, it's a bit weird trying to introduce players to D&D in like the Shadowfell rather than the normal world.
Yeah.
So I get that. And immediately off the bat, I try to explain like the Feywild and the Nine Hells and that kind of a thing, because maybe certain planes of existence tie into NPCs that they'll meet later on, and that knowledge will be important.
Okay.
But yeah, so I kind of try not to look too hard into the domains of Dread and focus mainly on the planes of existence, and then just say, oh yeah, and there's mist, and you can't go beyond it, and that's like
it's magic.
The most basic.
Just
it's
don't worry about it.
You get the idea.
I hadn't actually, and because I'm really not well read in the setting, I had assumed Barovia was in the material plane, not that it was in a different domain. What is nice about it though is that because of that, you can kind of do what you want with it by just putting it anywhere you want. What about you, Lane? How do you how do you place Barovia, or how do you place the campaign?
I tend to start off. I don't go like too far into it. I played Curse of Strahd like pretty much as it was written right when it first came out.
Oh, okay.
And there were things that I liked and things that I didn't like. So I kind of pick and choose. I very much keep it in like the realm of it is a gothic horror game. It is very different than any other setting to me, and I try to play up that, especially like my players, 2 of them have never played D&D before, and so I specifically picked this module because to me it is very different than what you expect of D&D. You can play it in that way, but to me that's what I like about it, is that it doesn't necessarily rely on you having a bunch of knowledge about all this other stuff. You can kind of pick and choose. I tend to Barovia, my version of it is very much a isolated place. I tend to rely on making it seem very different from wherever my players came from before. I tend to try and get them to give me as much information about wherever they're from to give them kind of a point of reference for it. But I very much play into like the strangeness and the weirdness of it compared to what you might normally expect.
Okay. Have any of you found that, like, it occurs to me now, have any of you found that you bring in people to play this game and they're coming in from Vampire the Masquerade? And this is actually a fun module to bring people in to D&D because of just the tone of it?
I have not yet. I have not experienced that yet.
Yeah, I was gonna say I haven't, but I could see that happening.
Yeah, it just occurred to me that actually wouldn't be a bad jump if it's like, I don't know, I don't really want to play Lord of the Rings. It's like, yeah, but I can like really fuck you up if you want.
I just feel like the vibes are so. Yeah, there's vampires. And
I only
very
mean it
dark.
in that sense. Like, it's like if that can attract somebody to at least want to try it, you know.
But I feel like the vibes are very different.
As somebody who does play VTM, I definitely agree with Franz. I think the vibes are very different. While there is elements of things that are similar,
it's a very superficial connection.
I think that I think it's interesting because like you obviously have the gothic horror setting, as Lane kind of said, but I do think that they are very, very different games. Also, White Wolf has a completely, like, if you're talking mechanically too, White Wolf has a completely different set of rules rather than D&D.
Sure.
But they're both very interesting in their own right.
I think the main difference that makes me say I don't know how well that would work. Like, I'm sure it's worked fantastically if someone's like interested in it, like absolutely. But in VTM and like White Wolf games in general, you are the monster struggling or not struggling with those things. Versus in Curse of Strahd, you are supposed to hate the monsters. You are supposed to hate Strahd, hate everything that's going on there, which I feel like is very tonally different than VTM.
It's interesting, yeah, and it really does depend on the character you play too, like from a VTM standpoint, because a lot of the time there isn't a mechanic to make you more human, rather, but you play a descent into becoming the monster, kind of, as Franz says. But anyway, I'll get off this topic because I know that's not what we're here to talk about.
No, it's totally fine. No, it was an offhanded comment, but it brings up interesting things, and this is not just a D&D live stream. We like talking about all tabletop, so compare and contrast away, please. All right, so just for everybody's edification, canonically, the way that it's designed is that Ravenloft is the Domains of Dread? Is that what it is? Like, it's the same, they're kind of synonymous, that Ravenloft is the setting, and it's a place that is, I was like looking it up in like the Forgotten Realms wiki, trying to figure it out. One sec.
So, like, how does Ravenloft kind of intertwine with Barovia? Is that what the question is?
I think what we determined was that okay, so the Domains of Dread, sometimes collectively known as the Demi-Plane of Dread or Ravenloft. Like, Ravenloft is the term for the Domains of Dread. And then within Ravenloft, you have like Barovia
it gets kind of weird and
Yeah.
squidgy because
Yeah.
of it, like Ravenloft, I believe, was the original name for it when it came out in the 80s, and they haven't necessarily changed that because Ravenloft is a very specific thing in Barovia and in the module, but it's become kind of a colloquial term. Like most people say Ravenloft instead of Barovia, even though Barovia is the actual place. So it gets kind of like.
So I think the problem is that domain is really close to. Oh, I mean, it does kind of evoke the idea that they're all different planes of existence, rather than like no, they're just different kingdoms essentially in Ravenloft. So Barovia is one of the territories in Ravenloft. So, does the campaign primarily happen in Barovia, or do you go outside it at all in the story?
It only happens in Barovia.
Okay.
Yeah, like in its entirety, it's pretty much in Barovia.
Gotcha.
Which, talking about names, there is Barovia, which is the land, and there's the village of Barovia.
Yeah, I hate
Yep.
that so much.
And then
Is
the
there like an
castle of
is there like an
Ravenloft.
origin of that? Oh my god, is it the Castle of Ravenloft?
Yeah.
God damn it. That's like
Named after his mommy.
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
And then
And
his
Barovia
dad's like
is...
Berov or something.
Yeah, Barov.
Say Ravenovia's
Favorite
name
daddy.
came from this campaign.
Yeah.
I stole
Oh.
it wholesale from this campaign.
That's fair.
You would.
All right, so let's talk. If you were gonna pitch this campaign to somebody, and you wanted to include the crux of the plot, like you could just say it's spooky, but like, would you say like Strahd is a main antagonist? You go and you're dealing with a village where this vampire is ruling things. Like, how would you do an elevator pitch for this campaign?
This is very hard.
I love that Franz, the little guy, just sighs. Just
There's
actively,
something-
just a,
So there's something that everyone watching this currently and in the future needs to know. My opinion, which may be controversial to some people, is that Irina Kolyana is the main character of the module, and if you are playing it any differently, I think you are wrong. It's just a fact of the matter is that Irina is the main character.
okay. Is
that being said-
the main external conflict Irina versus Strahd?
I mean,
Theoretically,
anyone can. I mean, that's the first one you kind of like hear about more or less, unless you skip Barovia entirely. Which, okay, sure.
incredible. The salt.
I mean,
see,
we
now I
kind
need
of
to
speed ran.
now I need to make a version of this icon that's just salty Franz. So like, the little guy
Oh,
needs to get
sure.
salty at some point.
I
I like Jay suggests it's
Oh my
Dracula,
God.
but you're the cowboy.
Shout out to everyone reading Dracula daily, by the way. I
Yeah.
know it's over, but in my heart,
It's
yeah.
not.
It's never over. Franz
think-
is just
I think
like,
I'd-
I'll never let go.
I think I definitely pitched it as a gothic horror thing, but with elements of Dracula, and then you've got like Van Helsing, and then you've got
Mhm.
elements of Frankenstein, and a couple
Yeah.
sort of vague Lovecraftian
Sure.
notes as well.
It is gothic horror inspired by classic gothic stories.
Yep.
Okay. No, that's great. That's a really good pitch. I like that. How dark? Oh, okay. So comparing what's actually in the text versus how you run it, how dark does the horror get? What kind of horror are you actually dealing with in the story? You talk about classic horror being a big, like, classic gothic horror. So you've got theoretically intellectual thought experiments about the nature of monstrosity and humanity, I assume, is sort of par for the course in
Yeah.
it. But like, is there body horror? Is there like,
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I assume there's a lot of undead.
Yes.
Mhm.
Probably you name it, there's probably something that will touch on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cannibalism, murder
Sure.
of children.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it really depends on how much you want to go into it, because they kind of
Yeah.
just all present these things to you in one way,
Yeah.
shape, or form. But it's like, this is the thing. You can do something with it if you want, but we're not going to go super deep into it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
assume
I-
bugs, creepy
Having
crawlies.
having a session 0 for Curse of Strahd, I'd say, is
Yeah.
imperative to make
It's
sure you have
very
like the
important.
whole consent thing sorted
Mhm.
and
Yes.
making sure everyone knows where to draw the line.
Yeah,
Something-
when most people's I would argue that most people's lines and veils in RPGs have to do with horror elements or things that are scary or like upsetting to them, then yeah, that makes a absolute ton of sense. It feels almost like it really should be a requirement for running
Yeah.
Strahd.
Yeah.
One of the
Okay.
biggest things that my DM asked us when we first started was, how do you feel about permanent character death? Which
big one.
is something you should ask every campaign, but like for Curse of Strahd specifically, because I won't get too deep into it because I want to talk about this in a later piece. But we had a TPK at level 3. Like
Whew,
You can see
we're
that
all
happening.
we got better,
Mm-hmm.
but
we got
TPK
there.
level 3, Twig Blights. I don't know what to say. So.
Oh.
Oh my god.
I feel like I've used those. I have been told as of yesterday, but I've been told before, I have like certain creature fixations, and
Yeah.
like I end up with a lot of plant creatures and a lot of lizards apparently.
No, you end up with a lot of limbs, is what you end up
Limbs.
with.
yeah, too much of something. They've decided that they know it's meant to be scary when there's too much of something.
Just
Too many eyes, too many hands, too many legs, too many heads. It's just apparently that's what I consider like actually upsetting, is like that's not where that body part goes. That kind of stuff. Okay. So let's see. How have you found that you've handled horror in your campaigns? Is there anything you've had to like wholesale cut out, or like have you leaned even deeper into something because the players seem to really like that?
Ooh. I've been very lucky in that my players have basically said, "Oh yeah, we're kind of fine with everything, except this person really doesn't like big spiders, and don't give us any like really creepy jump scares."
I don't think there are giant spiders in Curse of Strahd,
There-
is there?
There is at one point, but that's
my God.
very easily taken out.
Oh,
so
okay.
right.
really easily. So
Okay.
that's not an issue. But then, thankfully as well, my players know that if at any point something happens, that they can just send me a message and be like, "Hey," like at one point we had a player have a close family member, and they needed to attend their funeral the same week that we were planning to attend a funeral in game. So we just took that very carefully, and I may have rewritten a couple events that would have happened. But that's totally fine because you can move, social encounters, and it doesn't have to be then and there.
Exactly.
I think that's honestly one of the benefits to Curse of Strahd is that there's a lot of flexibility.
Absolutely. It's
Good,
I've had the
good.
same thing. My players are relatively chill. Like they have a few specific things. They're like, I am not down with this. Please
Yeah.
don't do this. Please don't hurt the child. I'm not down with that.
Yeah.
I'm like, fine. Like
Sure.
there could be
Oh,
peril, but
yeah.
like, please
Yeah.
don't do that. I'm not into that. I'm like, that's fine. I can work with that. So it's been very easy to just kind of shuffle things around and move things around and lean a little more into other things that I know are going to be fine to kind of make up for being a little lighter in certain subjects.
Oh,
Mhm.
absolutely. And sorry, Nico.
One thing I just want to point out real quick is, Ange, you've never read through the book, right? You haven't
I
like
have
leafed through it or
not. I have
anything?
not ever
Okay.
read through the book. The most I've done is like cursory looked at like a breakdown of the levels that you would probably play it at and like what happens
Right.
in like what's the focus of that level. But
Well,
other
one
than that,
thing-
like I don't really have much.
I want to point out because it is very true in like the flexibility of this, where the book is broken up into areas
Mhm.
instead of like it's not railroady at all. Like I'm
At all.
at all like I'm running through Tyranny of Dragons, and that is the most railroady shit in the planet. It wants you to follow these specific things.
So specific.
It's so specific. But for Curse of Strahd, it's just like, here's a chapter on this place, and here's a chapter on this place, and it's like, it's completely like you can go back and forth between the two. Players frequently do. I mean, when we play our Saturday game, we're going back and forth between Valaki and Kresk and going to the Vistani camp because it's not a very large place and you can go multiple places
It is
in one
very
day.
sandboxy. It is very
Yeah.
nice to just
That's
let your
cool.
players kind of run around as much as they can.
Yeah. It can be a little bit, I'd say, the word has escaped me. A little bit scary, I suppose, to DM initially, because especially once your players hit
Yeah.
Valaki, there's suddenly a lot that they can do.
So much.
And every time the session ends, you kind of want to be like, what's your plan for next time? Just so I don't, like, absolutely go crazy in this area of the map that you won't see for 7 more. So, like,
My players with a giant list of all the things they want to do that I mentioned half a sentence once.
Yep.
Please tell me which thing you want to do, because otherwise I will probably prepare for the wrong thing.
Yep.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it's so good in that way.
Well, okay, so there's a good thing. What in general do you think Curse of Strahd does really, really well as a campaign? You talked about it already that it's got that sandboxy quality. It lets the players kind of goof around, for lack of a better term. But what else do you think it does really well? Whether you're thinking in a meta way, like as a DM running it, or also just like story wise, what do you think it does really, really well?
Are you
think-
familiar
It could also be what
with
your
the
favorite
term
what your favorite aspect of the campaign is.
villain decay? Are you familiar with the term villain decay?
No.
It's the idea of a villain does not necessarily change, but other stuff gets added to where that villain is no longer as big of a threat and just becomes like, yeah, okay, yeah, whatever. The villain is still there, but like now we got this bigger villain. And I feel like
Okay.
it works really well because there's so many different threats going on at any given time. And it gets to the point where like, oh, okay, sure, werewolves, okay, whatever. Or anything like regarding that, like, oh, what are they? The witches, the druids? I don't give a shit about the druids anymore. We have got bigger stuff to deal with. I think it does a really good job of that, and also like making them out to be actual, like, you're supposed to hate them.
Mhm.
Like, it states very, very clearly that like you cannot appeal to Strahd's community. He will fuck with you. You have to fuck with the players. Like, of course you can do whatever you want with it, but the module as it's written is very much like, no, he's a monster. Play him like a monster.
Good. I always get players that want to redeem my bad guys.
Can't do
Or
that,
I make them too
One.
charming and the players are like, but I want to hang out with them. I want to go like get drinks with them. I was like, yeah, but they're going to poison you.
I literally have a player in this game who she's never played D&D before. We've been very good friends, and I told her about this game, and she's like, but can I romance the vampire? I'm like, you can try. You can certainly try. I don't think it's going to work in your favor, but you can try. And I love her very
successfully
deeply, but
romancing versus not being murdered after.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've
It's
made
two
that
different
very clear
things.
to her, and I don't think she's entirely understood it yet, because I love my players, but they're very
there's
ridiculous
one way
and
to teach
very
her.
silly, which is a weird balance between how dark the setting is, and they're just about to kind of hit the point where I think she might start to get it, but that's where my life has been trying to slowly make you understand that this is, I will let you try. I don't think it's going to go the way you want it to, but you can
Mhm.
try.
You don't have to romance the vampire. There are plenty other eligible bachelors in this game.
Not even bachelors. Speaking of Franz, how you doing?
Hey, my name is Franz, and I love Irina Kolyana.
Really couldn't tell. You mean the Irina, like the main character?
Yeah. It's not like my Twitter. I don't talk about my Twitter. I don't give up my Twitter here on DRPG because that's where I go to.
That's where you go to ship post?
Yeah, it's where I go to ship post. It's also
It's where he goes to ship post.
very
Jesus.
interesting.
Wow.
Message we just got in the chat here.
Wow, Wand of Orcus. That is that's what I mean, I had a bard do the meme of seducing the BBEG. It succeeded up until Strahd ripped the bard's throat out mid-coitus.
I mean, yeah, I can see that happening.
Okay.
That's very him.
Let's
Yeah.
face the realities of trying to woo a vampire. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we can talk a lot about Rahadin. Rahadin, however you want to fucking pronounce it.
Okay, so what I would like, because my brain works in a very specific way, what I would like is for us to talk a little bit about some of the major players in the campaign. And when I say players, I mean like the major power NPCs, the people that actually like are the movers and shakers for the campaign. Not necessarily the people in like not necessarily the people in the nobility and power, but like who are the big characters in the campaign. So we can either do it starting in sort of chronological order, like who would you normally run into first, or we can like, if there's some other way of talking about it, we can just talk about it based on like who you like the most.
There's just so many things you can run into at any point.
There's weirdly a lot of options, and again, you can kind of input power into certain characters depending on how, if your players choose to interact with them or not, versus who you might potentially have an interest in as a DM. I love Casimir, and so I change him a lot and make him a relative portion of my game, but I know not everybody does that.
Yeah, my players took one look at him and completely ignored him, and now he's barely an NPC that pops up.
Wow.
So it really can, there's a lot of options. There are some obvious ones, but even so.
I wonder, okay, Jay being gay in the chat. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jay, we know you love
though Jay did want to say even he didn't have the desire to romance Strahd.
Well, because your character already has a partner, whatever. Anyway, I guess we can look at tiers in that there are smaller optional threats. Just name dropping here: Old Bone Grinder, Murder House, the Pies. Those are all optional things where like you may not come in, you may not go into them, or you may decide to remove them. There are larger ones like Izek, which you are probably gonna run into Izek unless you purposely take him out. There is like Casimir. The main players from the Taroka really are like the larger ones where you're probably gonna run into them sooner or later.
Okay, can we talk about that?
The Taroka deck?
Yeah, so the Taroka deck is a big mechanic, or at least a very popular one that people talk about. But when you're saying that, are the cards representative of characters in the campaign?
They can be.
Some of them, yeah.
Does anyone want to talk about how the Taroka deck... Because I can talk about it, but I don't want to monopolize it if anyone else wants to talk about how you use the deck.
I was about to, and then words left my brain. It's kind of like a tarot card deck, basically, but in that universe. It's primarily used by the Vistani, and at one point within the story, you're guided towards this woman, Madame Ava, who gives you a reading, and she's supposed to use these cards to point you towards 3 magical items that will help you on your path, and an ally that will that you'll meet somewhere. And so some of these cards represent different NPCs that will be your ally.
Oh, so do you typically do they just pull and it's random and that dictates sort of a direction in the campaign, or can you like define?
You can do it either
do
way.
you say, okay, I'm gonna like?
I choose not to leave it to. I choose not to leave it to chance.
I left the items up to chance of where they were going to be, because I knew that my players were going to want to fuck around on the map, but I did specifically select the NPC card because I knew I wanted to make sure that I included this character and this plot point, because I had rewritten part of it as part of my homebrew, so I knew that I didn't want to miss that, but I was like, I don't really care where the items end up, and I know these people well enough to know they're just going to want to run around and do everything, so I can kind of put the items anywhere, but that was how it worked out for me.
Fair. I think the trouble with drawing... Sorry.
I just want to say, it also determines where you're going to meet Strahd in the final conversation, where you'll find
forgot
him.
about that
too.
Oh, neat.
I think the trouble with drawing it randomly is that, particularly with like the chosen allies, is that you can either get like a random child with barely any hit points, or you can have like Irina or someone like that, who, you know, and there's clearly there's clearly tiers there. You know, some maybe you don't want to fight Strahd with, and some that maybe will be essential and a lot more
Gotcha.
helpful.
You're saying you
I
don't
would
wanna bring
imagine.
Arabelle?
I would imagine it would actually be kind of interesting to use the Taraka deck as your campaign prep, where it's like, okay, I'm gonna pull them randomly to see what happens, and then I have to build that story. But yeah, doing it off the cuff in front of the players probably a little more stress inducing in
I
terms of being able to
pre-drew
run
the
the game.
cards before the
Sure.
session, and I have the physical cards, so I was able to show them to my players, but I
That's
had
fun.
prepped with them specifically.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that I knew what I was working with.
You knew which ones you were gonna do, or you pulled the cards and then planned based on the cards?
I pulled the cards before the session and
Gotcha.
then planned around that.
That's cool. That gives you a little bit of something fun to look forward to, where it's like, I don't know what the game is gonna be. That's always
Yeah.
fun. Okay,
Gabby
cool.
shuffled them live on camera and pulled them in front of us. So that
Oh
was cool.
shit! That
Wow.
maniac.
It was Gabby's first. Okay, so to be fair, this is Gabby's first game he has ever DM'd.
Oof. Oh my
So
God.
quite a doozy. He has been doing fucking amazing so far, I will say.
Aw,
Like Gabby
that's
gets
awesome.
so into character with the NPCs, you don't even like think, you know?
That's really good.
So good. So
We have a
good.
bunch of people running Strahd now too.
Yeah.
One of our other Nerdsmith directors, Tessa, she was in the chat, but she's running it for a bunch of young boys,
10-year-olds.
little 10-year-olds. So that, I mean, we already talked about this, that what we might do is do 2 of these round tables, because we do want to pick Tessa's brain too, and it'd be fun to have Gabby on as well to kind of
Yeah.
find some comparisons. Can we, just for my brain, can we do a what are big factions that you might have to deal with in the game? So the Vistani are a big one. A nomad, and what I'd like ideally is kind of like describe them a little bit. So if you name drop an NPC, give like a little this is what they do in the game. But the Vistani are very very Romani inspired. They're a nomadic sort of people that have with the Taraka deck that's connected to them.
Yeah.
What is their is there something in particular besides the card reading? Do they have a particular set of importance, or do they have an importance to the story in a particular way other than just
Yes.
do we need to put the spoiler thing on?
Is it time?
No.
I don't know.
I don't, not yet, because a lot of this is explained to you very early in the campaign in regards to for one, they are the only ones who, well, them and Strahd are the only people who can decide who goes in and out of the mists.
Yeah, they're the only
Interesting.
ones who can
Okay.
willingly leave.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's a really good example of an important thing to explain.
And there's a particular reason for this, which is also
Mhm.
explained very early in the campaign.
Okay.
I think Madame Ava would explain it to you if no one else has at this point.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to note is if you've ever read Dracula, you know that the depictions of the Romani, called something else in the book, is very extremely racist. And the Vistani are basically based off of that, because a lot of this campaign is based off of Dracula. Let's be real. So the whole as written, vanilla, all the Vistani are evil, and they all work for Strahd.
Yeah. This was the first thing I rewrote in this campaign.
Same.
Because
Yeah,
absolutely not.
with all due respect, fuck that. As somebody who has who has made a custom ancestry that is kind of vaguely based off the Vistani, but it's not at all. Fuck that. Fuck alignment basis.
It was
Anyway.
the first thing I got mad about when playing the module as written. I was so angry about it, and my DM had to sit me down.
So
and be like,
how offhand did you decide to change it? Did you whole cloth just say they have no affiliation with Strahd, or did you do something more where they're being they're under duress to have to work for Strahd?
Yeah, I kind of what I did was essentially sort of play it kind of in the middle. In my campaign, there are certain members who might be evil who are working for Strahd, but they don't all do that. Not everybody is aware of this. It's very much they're people, and people are going to make different choices, and they have a bit more agency in that regard. There are certain members who have been helpful to the party. There have been certain members who have been antagonistic toward the party. There have been specific instances where the players have gone up against them for various other reasons. So I very much wanted to make them feel more real and more like people than the stereotype that they're made to be in the module as written.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds completely legitimate. That sounds like a really good approach to it. Especially the idea of allowing some of that betrayal or antagonism to exist, but it's not whole cloth for the whole group of people. So if does the module or does the campaign mostly take place in the village of Barovia?
Nope.
No.
No, it goes outside of that. Okay, because I was going to ask. So technically, the village of Barovia would be a faction that you could deal with, or like a population that you could deal with. But what are there any others?
But no one leaves their houses, and
Okay, so there's no community really. It's just a bunch of hostages.
Not
The
in that
village of
particular
Barovia.
place.
The village of Barovia lives in the shadow of Castle Ravenloft.
Okay.
It is like at the foothills of the mountain that Castle Ravenloft is at.
Is there anybody in the village that is of any importance to the plot?
Yeah.
Per the book,
Yes.
that's where you meet Irina and her brother
Ismark.
Ismark.
Yeah.
So what's
He's
so
the
what's
burgomaster.
what's their deal?
Yeah.
This is treat me as I am, a complete newbie to the story. Or
Does anyone else want to take this one?
I'm sure you can fill in the blanks, Franz.
In short, Strahd has an unhealthy obsession with Irina,
Sure.
who does not return his favor.
Strahd, the undead incel. Yeah, I got that much.
And per the book,
Thank you for that. That was very good.
I love that I heard that. That was so
it was very
visceral.
clear. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
per the book, Irina is adopted into Ismark's family.
Mhm.
So Ismark is a protective big brother who just wants her to be safe. And so the general thing is that Ismark requests the party take Irina away from Strahd, away from the village of Barovia. And that's more or less all that happens. That's kind of-
Specifically to Vallaki.
Yes.
And who is that?
That
The
is
city.
the big city in the
Yeah, I was
middle
gonna say-
of the map.
The big
Okay.
city.
It's the big city.
Where is that?
It's important to note Vallaki because you can speak to Father.
I
This is
don't
one of the
remember his name.
He's Father
Father Donovich?
Donovich. It's Donovich. It's Lucian is the other one. Donovich tells you to bring her to Krusk, to the Abbey. Something to note is that by the start of the campaign, Irina has been bitten twice by Strahd.
And what does that do?
Third time? Oh my god! So
Is the charm? But
yeah. So you bite
was
someone 3 times, draining their blood nearly to death, and then on the third time, after the third time, you give them your blood. They go fucking
that
feral.
old chestnut.
Very
and then-
Anne Rice rules.
Yeah.
They become a vampire bride/groom, which gives like the person a permanent psychic link to them. And
Okay,
also
sure.
their sanity does not usually remain intact. That's what Strahd is trying to do. What happened is that
Ew, gross.
Colian, who is their father, has recently died. You're supposed to help them bury Colian, because Strahd charmed them into letting him in the house, and then Colian was like, "What? No, go fuck yourself." And then Strahd just kept having werewolves attacking the building until Colian had a heart attack and died.
Much.
Cool guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, let's see. Oh, you said a word and it made me think of something. Sanity mechanics.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about it? If I can tell how Franz feels about it. I tend to avoid the term. I might borrow things from a from a table, but I try to be a little careful with making a mechanic out of mental health.
Yeah.
Same.
At minimum, like, because even when you're dealing with like eldritch horror stuff, you're gonna run into madness mechanics and things like that. So do you guys deal with that at all, or do you fudge it a little bit and do something different with it?
I kind of avoid. If it's anything concerning the players, I leave it entirely up to them. A lot of them have. We have some brilliant players that have traumatic backstories, and certain elements from the campaign relate back. And so occasionally one of them will
Strahd
roll.
without a traumatic backstory. What are you even doing with your life?
I know. So one of them will roll occasionally just to see how they're doing in that moment, and then if they roll low, they'll RP. Them not handling it well, and that's so much better than trying to force, at least in my opinion, trying to force some kind of manic laughter or something on them, which can feel a bit out of place.
Yeah, it feels a lot more organic that way.
Yeah.
I know.
I'm proud of you. If that's
You're telling me you can't just do like an Azula impression on hand. What are you doing with your life?
God. Let's see. Wand of Orcus brought back the old 3.5 rules with fear, horror, and madness saves. I habitually do this with games. This is a little off the beaten path with Strahd, but I have a habit of just like finding as much as I can about a certain mechanic and then making a huge spreadsheet or like a huge page of it, like all the different things, just pasting them all in and then Frankensteining them together into what works for me. So I have a bunch of different iterations of things that would affect, like corruption rules I tend to use. They also call them taint rules, but I will never use that word because my players will never let me use that word.
Yeah, baby, taint rules.
Oh boy,
you should never have said it.
Me into Persepolis, please.
But I use I literally last session that I ran had corruption rules because they were dealing with a Batorian, which is the people that existed in the Nine Hells before the devils took over. So a big bad old one fiend. And I was like, this thing is a big cloud of darkness and you walk around in it and it's just messing with you the entire time you're in its presence. And so the players, it was a game of just a spreadsheet, and yet it was really tense and weird. The idea that they were just basically, it started snowballing as they were failing saves, that they started building up corruption points that were causing, first they caused physical maladies that they were dealing with, but then it started affecting their perception and their ability to reason and that sort of stuff, and it kept piling if they weren't healing. And you run out of spell slots eventually, and then it just starts really snowballing into really bad stuff.
I can't imagine that being like a whole game mechanic. I feel like that would be kind of, one, it just takes a lot of the autonomy away from the players, and two, like not necessarily with the corruption, but like the mad, if you're implying it as the madness and like the fear aspects that are in Strahd, like I know for me, even playing a spellcaster in that situation, it was very debilitating. So I can't even imagine what that looks like during an entire campaign.
The only thing that I would say is different is I ran it in one session. Like it's meant to be just like this momentary encounter with this thing beyond comprehension. But with those sort of rules, they tend to be long term, where it's like it takes days for you to start feeling the effects of these things. And if you're stuck in Barovia, you're gonna be there for a while, so you can't actually like leave the source of this darkness. So I think the idea is it's meant to be this sort of looming horror that is starting to seep into your soul, which, if played well, I'm sure could be interesting to run, but it'd need to be, I think, a particular flavor of that. Like I said, I go with corruption rather than madness or something that's more mental health based, or it's just like, oh, you look like a corpse now. You're super pale and no one can hear a heartbeat going on. Or, oh god, I didn't get to use it, but I had completely forgotten I found it. There was a whole series of physical things that could happen to you, and one of them was like growing a second set of teeth behind your set of teeth. Like, that was the thing, I had forgotten. Once we started playing, it went out my brain, but I specifically asked my players, is there anything body horror wise that would freak you out? Should I not do it? Because there's gonna be some. And then by the time I got to the game, I forgot about the teeth thing. I was like, damn it, that could have been horrifying.
My teeth hurt just now.
See, so we did find something.
I would love more teeth. I have to have.
I would love to have shark teeth because they'd grow back. That'd be great.
Anyway,
I am going to ask them to give me. I have to get one of my canines redone as a crown, and I'm gonna ask them if they can make it maybe like a little longer.
Can you make it a pointy canine?
Can you make it a little longer?
And can you do the other one? Just if it's under my dental plan, can you just do both?
Garrett. I have a max benefit of $1,500 a year. Anyway, give it a few years. I will have to get the other.
That's a different kind of horror.
That's a true horror.
So, two things I want to say. One, what Gabby wound up doing was we had a TPK. Only one person was rezzed a day, so I went first, so I had no problems. I had 1 level exhaustion, whatever. But some of the last people to be rezzed had to roll, and Gabby had them roll on a modified madness table. One of them has a compulsion. She still does, but it doesn't come up very often. Where if she sees something, she has to touch it. She has to grab it.
That's just half my players. Like, they don't need that prompt.
We are actually very adverse to touching things, surprisingly, in this game.
Isn't
and
that
the other one, she couldn't.
People getting so risk averse in the game. It's like, the premise is you're an adventurer. You're meant to be the kind of person that would touch.
Well, we were all tricked into going into Barovia. None of us wanted to be there.
Interesting.
So that was the thing. Israel very dearly misses their mother. The
trouble
other.
Is that... Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I mean, Curse of Strahd as well preaches and teaches the players to be very paranoid.
Absolutely.
That's the other thing. So if your players weren't originally like scared to touch things, they will be.
You'll get.
Oh, absolutely. I do want to say that actually, PPOs are not bad compared to HMOs. Good fucking luck seeing any doctor with an HMO.
The campaign's called Coverage of Strahd.
Which is 0, by the way. It doesn't have dental. The other thing that I wanted to bring up real
for
quick,
a vampire, that's fucking bullshit.
Doesn't
You
have
need dental. It's at minimum, that's the only thing he needs.
I mean, your dental coverage is the giant glass heart somewhere in the castle. Don't worry about it.
Fine.
I was gonna say,
when we're talking
I don't care if I have a cardiologist that covers me. I need a dentist. Okay, go ahead.
If we talking about Curse of Strahd, talking about timelines in game, because we talk about like, oh, it's like, you know, it's not supposed to be a long-term thing, but we played Curse of Strahd for over a year out of game, and we got maybe 2 weeks in. I had my friend Adam play a Curse of Strahd game fairly regularly for, I think, almost 3 years. The entire campaign was a week long in game.
That's a hell of a week.
Things move very, very quickly in Barovia, something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, that and the fact that you're in sort of this confined space definitely plays into that, I imagine.
Yeah, once you start doing things like with a capital D and a capital T, people start paying attention and things start snowballing and picking up very fast. And it depends on how quickly you start doing that.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
The map itself is also fairly small. Like you could probably ride, you know, a horse or something from one main city to another in like half a day. So you can get quite a bit done in 2 different locations.
We stole some horses. I named them.
What were their
Uh-huh.
names, Franz?
This is very important.
Well, we had a paladin, so one of us already had a horse. Her name is Ava, not to be confused with Madam Ava. It's spelled with an E instead of an A.
Please tell
or
me
the
there
other
was a
way around.
conversation had with her about it.
I don't think so.
Oh, that's such a missed opportunity.
But she's
Someone
I
yelling
forgot what
at
her
Ava.
coat color is.
Naomi, what is the fear of brooms? I need to know.
Was it a
Did you know?
mimic? Was it just
No.
hitting them?
In the death house, one of the first things they came across,
Which we will
was
get
this-
to, but continue.
Yeah, a broom cupboard, entirely innocuous. Nothing
Uh-huh.
could go wrong here. But it also just so happened to be the one spot that one of our players decided to try and arcane check, and they figured out something was very not right with a particular item in that room, and now they will not go near another broom.
Beautiful. It's beautiful.
Uh-huh.
It's
Lovely.
It's so good. Yeah.
So, let's see. This is one of those things that I'm sure it exists, but I would love somebody to go through a campaign module in like a video and be like, let's like break it down. What are you actually going to look forward to? It's like for people who just call it too lazy didn't read. For people who are like, I don't have time to read this. I can't read this. Tell me something
You
else.
could probably pat that, Loki.
Yeah. Let me do. It's a Cliff's Notes thing. It's like a what are the important things, and then go read it if you want to know all the details. But here's the basic primer overview. Okay, so let's see. We can keep talking about like factions or people or things like that. Let's talk NPCs. Who are some of your favorite NPCs? Give me a little blurb about them and why you really, really like them.
Are we doing by the book, or are we doing?
Yeah,
'cause
that's very important.
How about this? Let's say,
that's good.
why don't we say your favorite in your game, but start it with describing how they are in the book, and then say how you
Okay.
change them to make them your favorite.
Okay.
So if something you really love from your game, and be like, well, okay, so this is the character in the book, and I hated this, so I changed it, and this is who my character is. Hyacinth and Amaryllis, that's very soft. Those are very
They're
good
red
ones.
roan and blue roans. I gave the
Oh.
red one to Irina. Don't
Of course.
at me about it.
I love it though.
Escher is my favorite in our game.
Who is it?
Escher.
Okay. Who is Escher?
He is in my.
One of
He's
Strahd's
married to
wives.
Strahd, one of Strahd's wives.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in the book, he is a dude that is avoiding Strahd because he's kind of scared of him. But as soon as the party is somewhat hostile, he jump out a window and lead them to Strahd, and that is all you know about him.
It's a paragraph this big. It's like this
Amazing.
big, I swear.
It's like it's that, and then it tells you how much his jewelry is worth, and then it's like
That's
Those are important. Honestly, unintentionally, really informs the character if those are the only
I
bits of
know.
information you have. So what did you end up doing with Escher? How did Escher
I've
change in
gone
your game?
above and beyond. It
love
seems
that.
that collectively, most people that run Curse of Strahd have decided that he's a total slut.
Cool.
He is a big flirt. He flirted with one party member at our dinner that we had with Strahd at one point, like really heavily. But he's starting to lean romantically towards someone else, and Strahd does not appreciate this betrayal.
Of course not.
Yeah, I've really gone chaotic with poor Escher.
I mean,
yeah,
as
the
you
party,
should, to be fair.
yeah, the
God,
party are
Shay,
looking to
don't.
him as an ally, and they're gonna have to be careful with Escher, to be honest, because if Strahd figures out what's going on under his nose, he's gonna be in a lot of trouble, and they could lose him.
Jay,
But-
I adore his replacement in our game. I will take him and fix him.
So we don't have Escher in our game.
Okay.
Instead, we have Nim. And Nim is a psychic vampire who is Jay's character's vampire daddy, because Jay plays a dampier. And Nim was invading Zima's dreams and was having conversations with him in his dreams. Well, a couple sessions ago, Strahd found out that he was being cucked and shoved his hand through Nim's chest.
Oh
Mm.
no.
So in mid dream, so we don't know if Nim's alive.
We just had this question.
Whoa, that's wild.
That's crazy. Someone just asked me this question in our campaign. If somebody
You say someone,
dies in
it
the
was literally me.
Yeah, I know. Well, I thought you guys had the conversation. I thought the players were talking and then you came to me.
It was Alex and I.
Okay. So question, and this can be to the whole group. If somebody dies in the dream spell, if somebody is physically like decapitated in the dream spell, does anything happen to them in real life? In your opinion, or in your games, what do you think? Is it Matrix
they just go
rules? If
brain
you die
dead.
in the Matrix, you die in real life, or you don't
Oh,
die in
no,
real
he
life?
didn't die.
So I can provide what Alex and I thought happened, if that's helpful. And Naomi, you'll appreciate this.
No.
It was, for those of you who have seen Doctor Who, it is specifically season 7, episode 13, where they're having a conversation with Madame Astra, I think that's right. And
I love
I think
her.
I think the Silence show up and end up. We should have put the spoiler thing on.
Hold on, I got it. Hold on, I got it. Well done. This is Doctor Who spoilers, though.
For
specifically.
Doctor Who.
Sorry, unexpected
How
spoiler
did we get here?
Um,
Mute if you haven't seen it.
but basically off her assistant, and it's
Who we
the
also
idea
love.
that you're aware of what's happening, but you can't do anything about it. You can't wake up. And she ended up like kind of, I think, fading from reality. But like it was a very interesting take on it. The idea that you physically can't wake up, especially if you're not the person who cast the spell either.
Oof. Yeah, so this was posited to me recently, and now I have to actually think about the answer and
You're
decide
welcome.
what my reality is. Anyway, okay, so spoiler removed.
Sorry.
No, it's totally okay. This show is all about tangents. It's okay. We'll end up navigating around the topic sometimes. So Escher, very good choice.
Yeah.
Do you have one in particular, Lane, that you're very fond of that you've
Mhm.
really messed with or filled out?
I kind of consider it 2 for the price of 1 because one
Okay.
of them is technically dead, and that is the Velikov siblings, Casimir and Petrina. They're weirdly kind of side characters, but I fell in love with Casimir when I played the module,
Mhm.
and essentially they are a pair of elves who are native to this place, and way back in the day, Petrina got herself involved with Strahd.
Wait, can we put the spoiler thing
Yeah,
in
yeah,
there
yeah.
if we're gonna go
Yeah,
really
sure.
in depth?
All right,
of,
if we're
like,
gonna
I'm gonna
describe
try
in the
not-
canon, if we describe in the canon stuff about Casimir and
I'm gonna try not to be super spoiler, give the
Sure.
basic. Basically,
we'll be careful.
she gets involved and things don't go the way that she wants, and she ends up dead. And her brother and a bunch of other people, some shit happens, and Casimir is left kind of trying to deal with this. And when you meet him, he is trying to find a way to bring her back to life, but she is not necessarily the person you think she is. And so, because Casimir is one of the NPCs that my party has ended up hanging out with and working with, the idea of bringing someone back from the dead in that particular way has become a plot point. Is because one of my players is an alchemist, and she has very strong views about that sort of thing.
Mhm.
And I've very much played with the idea that Petrina as a ghost is presenting herself in a certain way, but if things go the way that they do, she may end up not being who they think she is, even to her brother. And
okay.
I just really enjoy them. I think it's an interesting concept to play with. And again, I have a personal bias towards this particular character. So
I heard "bring her back to life" and I went, and nothing can go wrong.
pretty much.
I'm laughing at ends up dead. I wonder whose fault that is.
Yeah.
I have
Mhm.
I have a thought who might be at fault for this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm just pointing at the Strahd in my
Oh.
God.
You'd
I
be
literally
surprised.
wanted
Yeah.
it to like not be there, as you pointed.
Mhm.
All right. Franz, you've played a couple times now. Do you have a favorite? We know your favorite. Why am I asking?
What are you even asking me?
I was gonna ask you if you had who your favorite NPC was. I was curious.
Who's my Who's my favorite NPC?
Mhm.
Why don't here? Okay,
Okay, no, to be fair,
I can set you a 2-minute timer, and then you can tell us in 2 minutes why you like Irina so much.
No, I'm not gonna talk about Irina.
Okay, talk
I'm gonna
about
talk Dmitry Kreskov.
Oh.
Let's talk
Oh.
about Dmitry
Listen.
Kreskov.
All these characters have super Russian and Eastern European names. It sounds like you're just
Slava.
yelling about war and peace to me. Like, that's all I'm
Yeah.
hearing.
My God, I love Natasha and Pierre. Common of 1812.
It sounds to
Yeah.
me like Strahd is just asking to be parodied in Natasha and in Great
I feel like
What came first?
Mhm.
Dmitry Kreskov is a really fun NPC for me, how Gabby plays him. He is the burgomaster of Kresk, which is a tiny, tiny little town.
What? Wait, hold on. What word did you say? Burgomaster?
Yeah.
What does-
burgomaster.
What does
Eastern
that mean?
European for mayor, basically.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's basically
Yeah.
Because that was
Well,
just a
unless-
nonsense word. I'm like, the Burgermaster. Yeah.
The,
No,
and
my
the,
players
and the
think that's all the
Hamburglar
time.
is his arch enemy.
Unless you are Baron, what's his face, Volakovich,
Mm-hmm.
who's dead in our game, by the way.
Same.
Yeah, so they're
He got stoned,
they haven't killed him yet. They're working on it.
and now we have
Poor guy. 0 for 3.
Lady Wachter.
No,
Well,
no,
he
poor
fucking
guy.
deserves it.
He sucks.
He sucks. He kind of deserves it. Anyway, what the fuck was his name? Anyway, Dmitry Kreskov is really, really cool to me, because he's just really just trying to live his life, man. Like, all 3 of his children have died when you meet him, and him and his wife are just so sad. When we first met him, he was, like, still crying. Yeah, I love Dmitry, I really do. And that's what I'll say.
Jay is making me laugh in the chat. Sorry.
Yeah. Jay, are you talking about
Yeah. Vargas!
you're talking about the mayor that you let the mayor die
Baron
and took his son?
Vargas Volakovich.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we let him die. What we're gonna do? There's an angry fucking mob with like being whipped up by the agents of Strahd during the fucking festival. Strahd is right there looking at Irina. What are we gonna do? Be like, no, guys, no, don't kill him. No, he tried to fucking kill us. Kill him. Kill
I just
him. We're stealing your
realized,
son.
Franz, I just realized the energy that you bring to this conversation.
It's passionate.
Frantic?
Her sister was a witch. Are you gonna tell me I'm wrong?
I actually have never watched. I know what video
West,
you're referencing. I refuse to watch that video. I've never watched it in my entire life, and I
It's
refuse
worth
to
it.
watch it.
It's worth it. But it's the
Um,
energy you're bringing
wrong.
right now. It is the
This
it is the I am gonna tell you the facts of this fictional thing, and you're gonna have to fucking deal with it because
God.
fuck, man.
That's why Franz and
Is
I
this
get along so
different
well.
than any other?
it's the definition of extra and perhaps even
I warned you
unearned
all.
confidence because it is about something that so matters so little.
I
matters
warned
to
you
me.
all going. I warned
Exactly.
you multiple times going into this stream. I have too many feelings about Curse of Strahd.
I do too. It's fine.
That's why you're in the middle because the story revolves around you, Franz.
Revolves around Irina. Get it right.
Okay. I will. I needed to put a little picture. I needed to put a thought bubble that just was Irina right next to your head when it actives, because it's just like, or when you're not active. It's like when you're not talking, you're thinking about her.
I'm just thinking about Irina.
I am looking at her always. You know how many fucking depictions of Irina I have right in front of me right now?
Is
At
that
least
fueling
two.
this
Yeah.
righteous
4.
rage? I mean,
I have 4.
okay. How about this? I'm gonna put spoilers on real quick because I know
No.
what's coming.
What's coming? Let's talk
Allorah,
about
why
it.
don't we talk about your favorite character?
Oh yes!
Sorry, characters. You have a pair as well.
Listen, I literally know little to nothing about this character.
Well, but let's bring it
besides
up
what
and
I've-
then talk to them. And
Yeah,
talk to Lane and
listen.
Naomi and Franz.
All right, I feel like I should state for the record that I have 2 types: women who respect me and hot toxic men. So the Abba is really pretty, and that was the first picture I saw. But I also slightly blame Naomi because for those of you who don't know, she's a cosplayer. She's really awesome. You should check her out on TikTok.
I'll
But
get the link.
also,
Hold on.
but also, yeah. So,
But you were saying the abbot and I don't remember.
Vasilka. She is,
Thank
from my understanding, we're on spoiler. Cool.
Yes, we're on spoiler.
All right, I had to double check.
I got it.
She is a flesh golem.
She's like a bride of
Yeah.
Frankenstein kind of thing. I
Yeah.
think Naomi brought up that there was like Frankenstein elements to it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Bride of Frankenstein. It's Bride of
Feel-
Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah.
I just think, listen, I'm very into like the traditional horror setting, and so
Sure.
that whole, I mean, in addition to him being very, very attractive, which was a total selling point, I think it
And was very problematic.
Oh yeah.
So am I
I think that
understanding?
it is very interesting.
So okay, so we'll talk about who the abbot is and who Vasilka is.
Vasilka.
The idea that did the abbot create Vasilka, or is that like the implied relationship?
Yeah. She did.
Okay.
He did.
He straight up says,
Yeah.
in some cases.
Okay. Now I'm making an assumption, but like please correct me if I'm wrong. A bride for Strahd?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Can you guess what color her hair is?
Black.
No.
Try again.
White because it's a Tim Burton
No.
ingenue.
And you are
look.
so disappointing me. It's red.
It's red.
Red. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Irina's
yell
a
at me,
redhead.
Lane. I
Tatiana
didn't
was a
know.
redhead.
I
He likes
didn't know that
redheads.
either. Okay, he likes redheads. Well,
You
that's
see me talk
but-
about Irina. No.
Ginger supremacy. It's
it's
fine.
so weird. It's almost like Strahd's like half the players in my games.
I mean, they're
sucker
not
for
wrong.
sucker for
That's a-
redheads.
Yeah.
There's a lot
No,
of that.
Because of Strahd's unhealthy obsession with Irina, the abbot comes into this world and is like, I know how to help. If I build a bride for Strahd, he won't be
I-
obsessed with Irina anymore.
I can fix this.
Yeah.
Listen,
Good
Allorah
intentions gone
and I
wrong.
just
Intentions.
watched Don't Worry, Darling recently, and I'm very upset by the parallels that are going on here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay,
yeah.
so what? We're still on spoilers. I figured this particular
Okay.
plot line was worth spoiling.
Absolutely.
What are some interesting story threads that can be pulled from those two? So Vasilka's already been created, correct?
Yep.
And
Yes.
is she fully sentient? Does she understand what's going on? Does she have an opinion on what she's being?
I think by the
Used
book,
for?
no.
Trying.
Yeah.
By the book, no. I think it says that the abbot has taught her manners and things like that, but she can barely speak.
She threw
Cool.
a plate at the
Stats of a
wall.
flesh golem.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I will say that my favorite art that I found of them has her about 8 foot and change. It was great. And the
Yeah,
abbot was honestly she was
art.
probably about 10 feet tall, and he was like maybe under 6. And it was
I
very,
made-
very fun to see this picture.
I made my Vasilka a lot more human-like. I wanted to at
Sure.
least give the idea that his plan might work.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives her more intrigue anyway. Allows her to
Exactly,
be a character that might have an opinion about whether or not she has to be, saddled with
Precisely.
Strahd. That sounds like a fic. There's a tag on AO3 called that.
Oh boy.
Anyway.
One thing I want to say is I guessed it in a different game, and my character was a fallen Asmar warlock with the Undying Patron, and that her name was Imani, and she was one of the abbot's daughters. Where like he had created her, because an Asmar will fall when like corrupted by darkness, and spoiler alert, the abbot has been corrupted, though he doesn't know it. And Strahd thinks this is very funny.
Because he's a dick.
'Cause
Let's
he's a
talk about let's talk about the abbot himself. So he has another layer of mystery regarding him. He doesn't know that he is not like human?
No.
what's the
He's
deal?
a Deva. He knows.
Oh, okay. So
He
he's
doesn't know
he's
been
a celestial.
corrupted.
Okay, so he's a celestial creature that does not understand that he has been influenced by Strahd.
He thinks he can fix Strahd, and Strahd's like, yeah, totally, dude.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah.
You're
Okay,
so
so
right.
Strahd is literally just mind fucking this guy. Like just
yeah.
just like
That's what Strahd does.
please make me a wife. It'll fix me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still
And
have Lydia's
he's-
dress.
So
give to her.
what's corruptive? What is it that corrupted him?
So there's this place called the Amber Temple.
Which I saw was like at least in the level breakdown that I saw was like the end game. But sure, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah. Very
Can
short
be.
version, because we're talking about the abbot primarily. You go there, you can make a deal with some dark powers. You
Mhm.
gain a benefit, you lose something, and the abbot wanted to help, and he got an alignment change, but he doesn't know that.
Ah, gotcha. So his motivations
can
have
good.
been
Yes.
have been corrupted.
Yeah.
How does that influence the game, or like his initial intentions? Would you say, like in his interactions with other?
I can see how you could
NPCs or-
make it do that, but yeah, does it factor into the canon story?
Is it written? I guess is the
Yeah, there you go.
This happens before, like his alignment
Yeah.
change happens before the
Mhm.
party enters Barovia. So
Yeah.
he's
Okay.
been doing this for generations and generations.
Sure, but what does that alignment change actually result in? How does that affect his behavior and his motivation with Vasilka?
It means that, he's created Vasilka with all the best intentions. He wants to
Mhm.
break the curse. He wants to help everyone. But in doing so, he's pillaged Krezk's graveyards for body parts.
There you go. Okay.
And worse,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot
So-
of crazy stuff
Oh,
going on.
there's no fresh body part. There's no fresh hearts. Might need to go get one. Is that what you're implying? Okay.
I mean, something I added, it's not necessarily in the book, but one thing I added in our game is that when the party come to Krezk, the abbot introduces Vasilka without a face. And so he asks the party, he says, well, Strahd is going to come and inspect his bride tomorrow. We need a face. Any of you want to volunteer? It would be...
Who's the prettiest person in town?
Exactly. Well, at the dinner, Strahd seemed to have an interest in you. It would be selfish not to give this up. It's for a good cause. And it's
Oh,
really freaky.
Wow.
It's
that's
very funny.
amazing.
That's so good.
Funny
Bad.
watching- It's so funny watching one of your players come in, see how attractive he is, and then suddenly backpedal on all the flirting once he brings that up.
What's up, Allorah? That would have been
Yup.
100% her.
Not me. Couldn't be me.
But I could fix him.
God, no,
Yeah.
that's so good. That's
It's-
brilliant.
It is
Okay.
so funny because one of the other pieces is that like he no longer with celestial alignments, it's like, they're very good, they're very lawful, usually.
Everybody who
The-
plays around with Celestials and Fiends needs to watch The Good Place for the discussion about good versus evil, because
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
very good for giving yourself food for thought on that. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
And I play a tiefling-born Azamar. Trust me on this one.
You've done the thought experiments.
I've done the thought. That's so. I was joking. This is a side note.
Tell
I was
me
joking
his name
that
is
like
Trolley Problem, and I'll be happy.
it's very. I was talking about like haha. Who would play a character without a tragic backstory? Israel doesn't have a tragic backstory. The most tragic backstory is that they were born AMAB, the only child in a matrilineal thing. So it's like, can they actually retain this? And like, they look just like all of their female ancestors, except they are not a woman. So it's like a whole thing for them. But that's like in the past. It doesn't bother them anymore. It's not even a fucking thing because they have their fucking powers, whatever. Anyway, not tragic at all, except they tried to.
Who cares?
They tried to cast sending to their mother, and Strahd intercepted and said, haha, psych. Anyway, so the abbot
I
no
just
longer.
want Franz to like narrate and summarize things for us. Just
I record and transcribe my Curse of Strahd games, so if you're ever interested in the blurbs I put up on Twitter, I put them up on Twitter. You don't get my Twitter. Anyway, my point being,
like on 11 today, and I love
he
it.
no longer sees Strahd as something that needs to be destroyed. He sees him as a person who can be salvaged, which is not true. Meanwhile, my Azamar has their Deva, Aisling, being like, you need to destroy Strahd. Irina is a distraction. Forget her, destroy Strahd. And then the fucking abbot who name drops Aisling when I've not fucking spoken to them or said anything about them the entire time. It's like, Aisling would be disappointed in you, or like, actually, I think you should work with me to get Strahd to like, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Whose side are you on, man?
Now, I live with an attorney. And sometimes he says things without explaining them to people. For anybody who doesn't know, ASMR, at least a protector ASMR, often has an angelic voice in their head, or a guardian, or someone like a guardian angel that will talk to them and help guide them. And I assume that's who you're talking about, Franz?
Yeah, so most ASMR
Your Deva, so yeah.
has a celestial being kind of like assigned to them to sort of like help guide them on their path
Jiminy
to
Cricket.
like do whatever they need to do. The only ones that really don't have them are Fallen, because they are fallen. Now, the fun thing about Israfel is that they are a Scourge Azamar, so they fucking explode. The thing about them that I really like is that they are a Tiefling-born Azamar, because they are actually line of Zariel, which is a fallen archangel, now archdemon,
That's a good connection. I love that.
But also they are a Scourge Azamar specifically because the celestial and fiendish energy don't mesh well, so they are a walking bomb.
Amazing. I like that. That's really good. But yeah, so
my
that's
rant
the
is over.
That was a hell of a rant. But that's the context in case anybody doesn't know that. I also really love that aspect of ASMR that you can manipulate. I have a fallen ASMR PC who does not hear the voice anymore, but she used to, and so she feels its absence. And she's born again. She's a celestial warlock. So she gets healing magic, and her patron's a Kirin, so it's like my celestial pony. And she's like trying to be good, but she also does that like that fallen ASMR do. It's pretty great. Anyway. So we're running a little past. I figured I'd give us an extra half hour because we were about a half an hour late being started. But let's see. This is clearly a conversation we can continue having. Oh, hey, Jay. Yeah, your friend, Eleanor? Yeah, Eleanor. We were just talking about The Good Place, and I realized my character's name was Eleanor. It's great. She should just be from Fantasy, Arizona, and it would be wonderful. So I think the last thing that would be worth talking about, at least in this iteration. Oh, I should turn off spoilers. We're not really that spoilery right now. Is we talked about what Strahd as a campaign does really, really well. Let's end on a high note. What does Strahd as a campaign really fucking suck at that you fixed in your campaign?
Let me grab
Yeah. So yeah, what is something, I mean, like I said at the beginning, Strahd is a very well-known, at least it's iconic. It might not be well-known in like everybody knows the details of the plot, but they know who Strahd is, and they visually understand that there is a Dracula of D&D. But it's also a little infamous in certain ways. We talked about the Vistani already. So that was a really good example of something that was highly problematic in the way that it decided to just kind of wholesale write off an entire population that is heavily inspired by a real population of people. But what other... Okay, Franz, that's going up on the screen. Live in your shame.
I have no shame.
Okay.
I don't think that...
Noted.
So
will remember this.
what anything come to mind off the top of your head of something that you read or you experienced as a player and were like, I'm gonna fix that when I run this?
Who wants to talk about the Dusk Elves?
Oh, that sounds like Drow, and that sounds bad.
Oh, Angela, it's so worse.
It's really bad. It's so much worse.
Okay.
Naomi, you said you had notes. I'm curious.
Yeah.
Not on the Dusk Elves though. So do you want to take that first and then?
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
How
So
is it
here's-
different than what happened to the Drow initially?
So the Drow,
They're
I
trying to
don't know the
fix
Drow.
it. So initially,
Dusk Elves are, I think, distantly related to Sun Elves. I don't know.
I think so. That's what they
Okay.
originally were. I don't know if that's
I think
true
they
anymore,
tell you to
but-
use Sun Elf strats, but
Okay.
genocide.
Yeah.
All of the
Of
women
them?
were killed by Strahd.
Yes.
cool.
All the women were killed. All of them.
Why?
The women. Because Strahd was mad at them.
At the women because they had standards.
At the Dusk Elves. So he's like, huh, okay, you're gonna be little bitches. Cool, I'm gonna kill all of your
I don't
women.
know, I'm
Have
gonna
fun
treat
slowly
Strahd
dying
like the
out.
incel he is.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, Strahd is a real incel.
Yeah, he really is, like, intensely.
Actually, no, he's not an incel. He's not involuntary. Like he has multiple wives. He's just
Franz,
like
Franz, listen.
Mm-hmm.
I think the in incel is a state of mind. Okay, that's my personal opinion.
Sure.
That concept is garbage and is blaming other people for your own choices.
Well, yeah, that's why we hate them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just
speaking of the Dusk Elves,
Yes, the Dusk
I
Elves.
rewrote that entire backstory of them
okay.
because I homebrewed my game based off of basically a time travel theory in another game I had seen of Curse of Strahd that I was inspired by. So I just went,
Okay.
I'm changing this thing for this reason. The time travel doesn't actually come into play in the actual game. It was just the basis that the reason I gave to myself so that I could slightly fix that thing that made me annoyed. And a couple other things.
Okay, so I just came up with a fun idea for the Dusk Elves.
Mhm.
What if you did now hear me out. What if you did the reverse? That Strahd wanted, like, oh well, if you don't have any options, you're gonna have to consider me a suitor and kill all the men off. And then you have Godless from Netflix, where it's like the women still didn't want him and they just took over and it's their village now, or it's their town now.
That
And they're just like,
is
fuck this guy. Like, we're still running things and we still don't want him. It's just that idea of...
that just makes them the Drow at that point.
Yeah.
But it's not like hating men. It's just like, no, he legitimately killed off an entire generation of people.
Sorry, hating man. That man specifically.
Sorry, hating not a man.
Interesting thought experiment, but like
Yeah.
Strahd
It's still
does not
leaves.
care. He just
Sure.
cares about Tatiana. He doesn't even care about Irina. He cares about Tatiana.
Can we circle back? Who's Tatiana?
Oh,
Missed
okay.
some stuff.
So Tatiana, there's oh god, it's Strahd's whole fucking backstory.
Yeah.
So
Give me a
there was
sentence or two.
Tatiana is a woman that I say woman really weird, is a woman that
woman? Yep.
is a woman that Strahd fell in love with, but she instead fell in love with Strahd's brother. Strahd was like, okay, fine, I guess, you know,
no.
whatever, love wins. But then, like, on the day of their wedding, he's like, actually, what the fuck? And so he goes and he kills Sergei, his brother, and then Tatiana's like, go fuck yourself, and she jumps off the fucking balcony. And so, because in Barovia, like the soul, you're either born without a soul or you're reincarnated. Don't worry about it. Every
Did you
fucking
say that the creepy
iteration.
music box music started as you were talking
Mhm.
about this?
Okay, cool. I have Crane Wives playing. Can you imagine me putting Crane Wives on an Irina playlist? Anyway.
Of course not.
So every incarnation sort of kind of looks like Tatiana did, so that's how Strahd like susses them out essentially.
So
and
Irina is
so
one of the.
is the most recent
Mhm.
incarnation,
She's the
and
current
Strahd
one.
does not call her Irina. He calls her Tatiana. And when
Ew.
you ask him why do you care about Irina, he's like, it's Tatiana's soul. She is the vessel for Tatiana's soul, and
What's
that's
up, Resident
why.
Evil Village?
Yeah.
Anyway, I love Irina for
another
who she
fun
is.
reference point you could make if you were playing Curse of Strahd or running Curse of Strahd. Strahd into a 10-foot tall lady. Curse of Dimitrescu.
Anyway, what were we
That's what I would
talking
run.
about? I was blinded for a second.
That's okay. Things
Apparently.
that it does badly. Things
Things
Curse
that it
of
does
Strahd
badly that
badly.
you decided to
Yeah.
change.
Mhm.
And it doesn't have to be a
Oh.
plot point either. Like we talked a little bit, like if you don't necessarily like madness mechanics, do you do something else to create a sense of like sort of constant dread and corruptive influence? Do you do something different? That kind of stuff. Like it can be mechanical or plot.
Irina's entire characterization.
Yeah.
I don't want to set you
I'm not
off.
talking. I'm not. No, we're
Yeah,
not going
let's
to talk
not-
about it.
I want you to I want you to write that dissertation though, and I want to read it. We don't have time right now.
I know. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm just going to say it. Also, mongrel folk. Naomi, go ahead and say what you were going to say.
That's a terrible
Okay.
word to begin with.
Yeah.
So that's not great.
I have 2 bullet points.
Okay.
I don't think I can tell anyone
proud
in
of you.
good conscience to run it by the book, basically.
Yeah,
Because
sure.
correct.
You've got to customize it in some way, shape, or form to your players, to what you fancy doing it. You know,
Okay.
it's by the book. Curse of Strahd, don't do it.
Valid.
And if I can I give some people a shout out, because I
Jesus,
tend
Jay.
to jump into YouTube
Sure.
for ideas.
Yeah, go
There's
for it.
a couple YouTubers that I like looking at, which have great ideas. There's Lunch Break Heroes
Okay.
and No Fun Allowed. They have so many incredible videos on every element to the Curse of Strahd, and they change things. That's actually where I got the Vasilka without her face idea from. They have so many really
okay.
good bits and pieces.
Oh, so that
I
wasn't
can't
wasn't
credit-
canonical. That's great.
It's not canonical.
I was
can't
gonna give them
myself
credit for
with
that. Good
either.
job. Thank you for telling me.
It's all right. I would also say that the module has a lot of combat. My party
Mhm.
specifically
Sure.
really don't enjoy combat itself.
Same.
They much prefer the RP and stuff like that. But there are some places in Barovia where the book will say, oh, every 30 minutes that the players are spending like walking down a road, roll for a random encounter. And it
Ooh.
can just get so tedious.
Yeah.
So you should not do that. And
I completely removed that mechanic.
me too. I have to plan something that is either story related.
Mhm.
So for instance, in our game, the characters heard of the Mad Mage of Baratok, very briefly saw him, and then completely forgot about him. So I introduced a little thing that they would see on the road that would then remind them of that. So that's something like that that's actually useful.
Sure.
rather
Oh yeah,
than,
definitely.
1d4 werewolves again. Kind of a, you know.
Okay, so you could take the random encounter thing though, and you could turn it into, here's an NPC from the campaign. I'm gonna slot them into that, and then
Oh,
that's
definitely.
someone you encounter on the road. It occurred to me. Okay, so am I correct in saying that a big, if not the big motive in the game is you are stuck there because of the mist, and you're trying to get rid of the mist, or you're trying to get through to
Trying
leave?
to get rid of the mist, but in order to get rid of the mist, you have to kill Strahd.
Yeah.
Because
Pretty much.
the mist is the curse, right? That is the eponymous curse. Like
It's
Okay.
part
n-
of it.
being
Yeah.
being unable to leave is an effect of that curse.
Yes.
So there are 2 pieces. You have to have one of 2 character drives. You either have to want to kill Strahd or want to leave Barovia. That is the only way to run this module.
That's fair. It's very
Yeah.
valid. unless you want to just do a slice of life in a horror setting, which is valid if you want. What's nice about that, having a sandbox but also sort of very contained story, and I've never done that, and I really probably should try to do that at some point. Bag World sounds like a good use for that.
Yeah.
A sandbox space, but because there is something that is keeping everybody in, every single NPC has an opinion about that thing.
Mhm.
So that's a really nice through line to feed into every single character they encounter. Everybody has an opinion on this. Even if it's I don't care, it's still a relationship to the main crux of the story. So that's really powerful. I think that's a really great aspect of it, because you could end up in a bigger campaign with a much broader setting where there's a lot of people that literally have no importance to the story or have nothing to say about the story that your players are on. But this seems like a situation where everybody's in the same situation here.
Yeah.
So they're going to have something to say or something to do because of it. So, go ahead, Naomi. What's up?
So I was going to say the other bullet point I had.
Yeah, what's your
I
other
could
bullet
talk
point?
for hours about this subject.
Okay.
The other bullet point I had, which we may want to turn on the spoiler warning
Okay,
for.
I shall do so.
Oh no.
There are two NPCs that are famous in D&D lore that
Mhm.
could potentially overshadow your party. So we've got Rictavio, who turns out to be Rudolf van Richten himself.
Okay, which is like a Van Helsing.
Yes,
Figure.
yes.
Yeah,
I've
okay.
got him in there because that's kind of fun. But then
Mhm.
you've also got the Mad Mage of Baratok, who I mentioned just a moment ago,
Right.
who is Mordenkainen himself.
Yeah.
Shit. Okay.
Yeah. I
Cool.
think that's a bit much, especially
Oh,
for
that
new
is-
I didn't know
players
that.
who will have no
Mhm.
idea who the heck that is, and it's not gonna. The way I changed it is Victor Velakovic disappears in his little teleportation circle, but then comes back in the future in order to try and defeat Strahd and free the land, and he becomes the Mad Mage of Baratok.
Neat.
Okay.
That's cool.
Oh,
I
that's
like
very
that.
good.
That's very
That's what
neat.
I do. I'm
And
a
that's
big
a
fan of that. I like
Well, yeah, and that's a fun way of incorporating a different type of magic that is not necessarily very prevalent in the game. Like no one thinks to try to master time magic and then fuck him over in another timeline or something.
It also
That's
means
really
that
cool.
they know who the guy is, because
Yes, there's
because I'm
actual
introducing-
stakes. No pun
Yeah,
intended.
because I'm introducing the first time D&D
Yeah.
players to the game, unless they're playing like a wizard and they might recognize the name from the higher level spells that they might eventually get, they're not
Mhm.
going to have a clue who this guy is. It's not going to matter.
It's the oh god, you're famous. I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. That doesn't have an importance to players who don't know who
Yeah.
it is. No, that's valid. And not only by doing that are you sort of simplifying things, they don't have to, you're not name dropping, but you're also again creating an importance to that character, a stake for the party to actually care about who the Mad Mage is. I love that. That's very, very good. So yeah, I think. All right, so I think this is Allorah, what's up?
No, you're good. I don't want to drag on too long or anything like that, but well, hold up. Sorry. Yeah.
It's okay.
Okay. Did we want to
Spoilers.
potentially talk about the thing I just dropped in chat?
Let me
Not in the Twitch chat. For context.
Okay, honestly, it feels like a totally second episode to talk about the House of Death because of how people drop that name all the time and it means something to a lot of people, but it doesn't mean anything to me other than it's notorious for being hard or being a bit of a meat grinder.
You can run it as a one shot. It works really well.
And
as a
people do that.
one-shot.
Yeah,
done that.
absolutely. Just completely independent of the campaign.
Yeah.
You
Let's
sound
get
so
into it. We don't have to talk
resigned.
about
You
it.
sound
Let's
so
see.
resigned, Franz.
It's a lot of people just drop it from their campaigns entirely because they don't want to run it.
Yeah.
Is it because it's super fucking crunchy?
It's
Like,
so
it's all
crunchy, and
it's just
also
combat?
so
Yeah.
it's one of those things where it's like it doesn't really have a big tie to the overarching like
It's
like,
just
plot and
something spook.
idea.
Ooh, Naomi has an opinion.
I
wanna hear that.
There are so many themes that reappear. If I introduce the Death House into every campaign I do just to begin with, because it gets the ball rolling. It helps introduce brand new players to D&T, to the combat system, to exploring, to being able to, just figuring out what they're doing. And then,
Haunted house.
themes.
It's fun.
Exactly. And that's a very basic idea that they can kind of get behind. And then you've got themes that reappear, like ghosts, and it's the first time that you'd hear about Strahd and how people might revere him and how he looks down upon people. I could go into a lot of detail, but hang on. I could
That's
get my
neat,
notes
though.
out, but then we could be here forever.
I appreciate the fact that we have somebody who like some people might see it as a superfluous thing, but you're finding it is very pivotal to kind of introducing your players to the tone and to the mechanics. That's a fascinating distinction.
I do always change the ending though, because there seems to be.
Let's talk about it. Okay.
By the book, the only way to exit the Death House is to sacrifice one member of your party, perma-kill them, in order to escape.
That
the house
feels
just kind of doesn't want to let you go.
That feels unimaginatively punishing.
Yeah, so I don't do that. Most of it is still there, but I always leave like a back door. It doesn't have to be a party member. It could be a monster that they picked up and captured within the dungeon.
Okay. I like the idea of still presenting the conundrum to them so that they have to think their way out of it. That's fine, yeah.
And
the Death House is an asshole and is demanding you give it a sacrifice. You don't have to.
Love those kids, though, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
But because of this, we had a really fun group that picked up the Grick that's in the larder. I made a baby Grick. They picked up the Grick, sacrificed that, left the house, and then felt really bad about it. It re-entered the house, picked up the Grick, sacrificed a raven instead, and then went to Madame Ava and was like, "Can you return this Grick to life so it can be our mascot, please?"
Oh my god, that's so good. That makes me happy.
And I love that so much. And I will never not run the Death House because that would never have been a possibility.
So is the Death House, did you tend to run it where it's like that's the first thing they see when they come into Barovia, or
it's the first thing the mists allow them to see, yes. I kind of railroad them towards it.
Okay. See, I realized that because now I'm like, honestly, this discussion is making me want to run it. But the idea of you could use the Death House also as the sort of, I don't know, I obviously don't have a ton of detail here, but you could have that Death House be anywhere and you could use it as the way they get stuck. They leave the house and now you're in Barovia. Like you didn't start there, but the house led you there and now you're stuck.
Totally do that, yeah.
That would be a fun way to do it too, because now it's like haunted house that like dicked me over. That sort of thing. And maybe like you could even have it be like at the end it's like finding the house is like, oh, we found the house again, now we can leave, turning it into a portal almost.
Potentially,
yeah, that would be cool. So there's a shit ton that we could still talk about, but we're well over time. Honestly, we started late, but you won't notice in the YouTube video. So that is our little chat about Curse of Strahd. And fuck, I want to do this again. Either Curse of Strahd again, or just like Franz and I were talking, like just doing this with other modules, chatting about the differences. I haven't run a lot of canon modules at all. There's a few now that I want to try. Like I want to do Radiant Citadel would be really fun. I'd like to run a bunch of those. But for those of you who stuck with us all evening, thank you so much. I hope you got something out of the discussion. And thank you to everybody who chimed in the chat. Your either thirsty or bloodthirsty comments were very welcome, and it was super fun hanging out with all of you. Thank you to Naomi and Lane for hanging out with us tonight and sharing their take the compliment, expertise on the subject. You know more than we do, therefore.
I'll send you all my notes.
Awesome. Do either of you want to plug anything?
I guess.
You can. I had your TikTok already saved in my
Yeah.
links, so I can just I can put that back in chat.
Yeah. I'm primarily active on my TikTok, and I'm currently basically reenacting the campaign that I'm running at the moment,
Incredible.
cosplaying the important NPCs.
We will
Very
be sure.
good.
We will be sure to continue sharing on our Discord or something as we, since we just talked about a bunch of the stuff from the campaign. So I think it'll be fun.
Thank you. There will be spoilers, but it's great seeing people in the comments talking about their own campaigns and what they find very similar and what's different, and it's I love it.
Comparing and contrasting is very fun when
Yeah.
it comes to established modules. It can be a lot of fun. And Lane, anything? You want me to link to your TikTok? I don't know. Oh, too late.
Oh God.
Franz. I had updated everybody who was in the Mad Max game so that you guys just had a generic. Because I figured you guys would end up back in the on
I'm
the stream
around.
at some point.
I'm in lots of things. You'll see me on Nerdsmith a lot. And also I'm sometimes on Twitter yelling about whatever my current hyperfixation happens to be.
Gay people. You're yelling
Yeah.
about being gay lately.
Yes. That's not new. But yes.
You can find Lane on several of our streams. She's been in a couple of Tabula Rakshasa episodes, and also in our mini-series, our Mad Max charity stream, We Are Not Things, which I still need to plan for next year. We should continue the story with another... Honestly, we'll just call them seasons. They'll just be like short mini-seasons. Of the wives in hell instead of in Australia. You can talk to Maury about arguing the difference, but it's fine. And let's see. We'll be here next week with with Nerdsmith Pixel, because every other week we do video games and then TTRPG. I am going to pitch a game, or do we want to let's pitch a game, because Franz wasn't around when we played Thomas Was Alone, which was very, very good. And I'm excited. I would like to finish it. But I'll pitch a game. I think we'll do a point and click. Been There, Dan That is a really dumb time travel point and click game about these two idiots who mess around with time travel. It's very Bill and Ted. It's pretty funny, and it's very short. So I'll pitch that one for one we can play in one sitting. So please join us next time, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, hopefully on time. And tomorrow we have our second to last episode of Tabula Rakshasa, which is my Lost Memory D&D one-shot series, where the players do not know anything about their characters other than their pronouns. I have made their character sheets, and I have them in front of me, and they spend the whole session trying to figure out who they are and what they're capable of doing.
It is so fun.
It's been very fun. Every single session is a different scenario. I now am going to have a huge little backlog of ideas. I'll probably start running these games in person for paid gigs. But it's been really, really fun to put everybody in nonsense. But Allorah is going to be in tomorrow's episode. Same time, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. And I have to go figure out what we're doing. But please check it out. If you want to follow us and know when we go live, you can follow us on Twitter or here on Twitch if you want to follow. And please, if you haven't already, come join us on Discord, where we are just nonsense people. But it's a fun, safe place to be. So please come hang out. Finally, make sure it's still the holiday season, obviously. So please check out our sponsors. We are all doing holiday sales. Die Hard Dice, everything on the site is on sale, and you can get your set of Nerdsmith Forge Fire dice, which we did in partnership with Die Hard Dice. They're really, really pretty polymer set that has our Nerdsmith orange on it. So please check it out. You can use the code Nerdsmith in the discount area, or use the link that I just put in chat and get 10% off your purchase. And then World Anvil, I am a very bad World Emberer. World Ember is their writing challenge that they do every December. It is write 10,000 words for your fictional world on your World Anvil account. They have lots of challenges and article contests. You can win prizes for best article subjects. And like, I think there's even one for like best design. So like if you just want to make your World Anvil pretty, you could also submit for that. But they have some really, really cool prizes from companies like Dungeon Fog, which is a map designer, things like that. So you should check them out if you haven't already. I am going to be working on it probably during the Christmas area when I have some time. And then we are affiliates of Hero Forge. We have too many sponsors. That's a good problem to have, I guess. Hero Forge is doing their Adventure calendar, which every single day they're bringing out a new asset, whether it's a prop or a piece of clothing or a hairstyle. They're doing a bunch of those. I think today was...
What was it?
No, I'm pulling it up right now.
Okay.
Yeah, every single day they have something new. And every Tuesday is Treasure Tuesday, so don't forget, if you have a pro subscription, which I have adored my pro subscription, you get a bunch of cool benefits, but you also get the new assets a week earlier than everyone else. A folded leather bodice. Basically,
yeah,
like,
it's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's like leather wrapped around, and it definitely has like a V cut on the bottom, so it kind of looks very like sporty and very cool. And yesterday was the Strength of Heart staff. It's a really, really pretty staff that has like wings and some heart designs on it. Yeah, there's been a bunch of cool stuff this week. So check them out. And the link that we put in is our affiliate link if you decide to become a pro subscriber. You will directly support the network and the kind of stuff that we do here. We also, finally, Discover RPG, we are specifically sponsored by Grinding Coffee. They're a Black LGBTQ owned business, and they sell coffee and coffee subscriptions. I need to double check, but I think a personal favorite of the network is the Gay Agenda, which is a very good flavor. But you should check them out. They're an incredibly cool company. I'm always really proud to be sponsored by them. They are always, how do I put this? They always seem to be on the right side of history when something happens and they want to speak about it as a company and their opinion. And I am always really proud of them as a group, and I'm very proud to be part of them. So you can use the, oh no. All right, well, we will finish the game. We will finish today's episode with a brief glimpse into a bunch of 10-year-olds playing Curse of Strahd. The Rowdy Boys, as they're called, fixed a fight by shoving two gentlemen revenant knights who have been pining for one another into each other and yelling, "Now kiss!"
I love that I know exactly who.
I know
you're talking
exactly who it is too.
That's beautiful. Strahd and gay. That's the whole show,
That's the
folks.
entire reason my players got into that plotline was, wait, it's gay? We want it.
Thank you, Tessa, for the little bookend to our episode today. Everybody, please have a great rest of your night. Have a safe week. Make good choices. Have a nice time. Hope your holidays are hope your December's going okay, and I hope your holidays are okay. We will see you here next time, but first, please do us all a favor and be good to each other. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Don't ever about to dance. I'm just like I said. And when I say hold yourself, I want all of you get ready to stop. When I say stop, don't move. And when I say get, I want all of you